Hi, welcome to Living Healthy. I'm your co-host, Dr. Barton Bishop, Chief Clinical Officer of Sport and Spine Rehab. Throughout the year, we've had a variety of topics to help you live a healthier life. Okay, start over. 3, 2, 1. Hi, welcome to Living Healthy. I'm your co-host, Dr. Barton Bishop, Chief Clinical Officer of Sport and Spine Rehab. Throughout the year on Living Healthy, we've given you a variety of topics to help you live a healthier and happier life and make sense of this nonsensical healthcare world. Well, today is no different, and we have a great guest with us. As always, we have our co-host, Dr. Jay Greenstein, CEO and founder of Sport and Spine Rehab. And we're joined today by Chris Gracey of Gracey Feet.
Great to see you guys. Thank you very much for having me.
It's our pleasure.
Yeah,
it's our pleasure.
Thanks for coming. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Chris. Where are you from? What do you do? What do you like?
It all began in a small town in Texas. I'm from Alice, Texas, where I was originally born, and my family moved to Norman, Oklahoma, and around to El Paso, Texas, and eventually grew up in Austin. My family moved to Fayetteville, Arkansas in my high school years, and after taking some trips around the country with family on vacations, I decided New York would be great and lived with my father and stepmother up in New York City. I eventually found my way down to D.C. and found the city for a country boy. Nothing's too tall in Washington, D.C., so it wasn't as intimidating, and it's a beautiful cultural melting pot. So I felt instantly at peace in this city. I am a graduate of Howard University. I graduated in '99 with my master's in physical therapy, and in 2000 got my certification in pedorthics. Now, pedorthics is the study of shoes and orthoses, and you'll typically find a pedorthist in shoe stores. They will help fit shoes, help size your foot to the right appropriate shoe, and they can also make some commentary on foot alignment and some of the types of modalities that might be best in bringing about comfort to feet. I felt that physical therapy and pedorthics were a great mix, and so I've dedicated myself to lower extremity and finding out for each patient that I see what is going to bring about the comfort, the most comfort that they could possibly get in their shoe and selecting their shoe wear.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sure.
So you have a foot fetish then?
No!
I'm kidding.
That's exactly what I was going to ask. So what is it about feet, Chris? What do you like about feet?
Okay. I have a love of the foot and ankle.
Okay,
its study and its biomechanics,
Okay.
in its shapes and its motions at every joint. With all the bones of the foot, they all communicate together, and at different ages, from child to middle age to elderly adult, our feet are continuing to change throughout our life cycle. And because the foot is the first thing that hits the ground every morning, and the last thing that we lift off the ground every evening, I feel that the foot and ankle are some of the most important parts of the body to pay attention to for overall healthy living.
So we're going to get into some great discussion about anatomy and all the products that you make, but I really would love for the audience at home to know a little bit more about your professional background, because you've got quite the impressive resume.
Thank you very much. In actuality, my resume is relatively succinct. It is sparse because my love of the foot and ankle has been developed over my desire to read and involve myself in the literature. So after my graduation in 1999 from Howard University, I made sure, for a lack of a better term, that I would have a job. In what would be considered the third year of my master's program there at Howard, there was an article that came out in PT Advance that said that physical therapists who made good money would work in a clinical setting and do the majority of modalities that were being taught in physical therapy schools at the time. physical therapists who made even more money would work in a clinic that was in a hospital setting or physician-owned in that respect. Then I turned the page, and on the other side of the page said physical therapists who owned their own clinic would make the most amount of money. So I said, oh my goodness, I have to piece this together. I have to specialize in one particular area of physical therapy, and I have to become a businessman and create my own way and my own business. So, not having an MBA and simply just learning about physical therapy from my professors, I was at a little bit of a disadvantage as to how to go about doing this. But I met a great man named Joe Schrader. Joe Schrader is a physical therapist at the National Institutes of Health. And he came and gave a 4-day lecture on the foot and ankle. And as I'm sitting there in class, riveted with the subtalar joint motions and the extension at the first ray and all these technical terms that I was just learning, I looked around my classroom and I saw that everyone was either sleeping or doodling because they just didn't want to get the concepts. They didn't feel like this was something that they would utilize in the outside. Even the ones that were the most competitive in school were showing up to class, but their brains were somewhere else. So I knew foot and ankle is something to focus on. And I had somebody there before me for 4 days that I could ambush in the parking lot and have sidebar conversations with after class and talk even more in depth about the need for depth shoes and for lower pressures inside the shoe and for better alignment of the foot, and then that better aligned foot aligned to the ground. So after 2-hour conversations in the parking lot with Joe Schrader, it was decided that I'm going to have my last affiliation, my rotations that we do just before we graduate, at the National Institutes of Health.
That must have been very exciting.
It was incredibly exciting. They even had an orthotics lab that had been built years before, that at one time had been built up and where they made their own prosthetics, their own AFOs, which is a type of bracing device, and orthotics. They had old materials on the shelf. They had old machinery and things that had just been gently used throughout the time. But when I got there, I took it over. I didn't want to leave without a full understanding of how those materials would interact together. And I started to embark on a new adventure for myself. And that was to learn about those materials and learn about how those materials can affect the foot and ankle and affect somebody as they walk and move throughout the day.
So then you ended up ultimately at the NIH, and you started working with the really, really complicated, multiple comorbidity, the patient that needs a lot of help, right? Talk to us about some of those types of patients.
That's right, Barton. Absolutely. The National Institutes of Health routinely seeks out persons for their protocols. Now, those are kind of experiments, if you will. The protocols are ongoing typically, and they will begin and end, and there are thousands of them that you can access online to see if you qualify for one of those protocols. One of these studies happened to be with navicular drop. Which is when the navicular bone of the foot, which is the keystone of the arch, when it's unloaded, it has a particular position of the foot.
So show the folks at home where the navicular is. Thank you.
Here's the navicular bone here. You can see the bit of outcropping here on the medial side of the bone.
So the inside of the foot, correct?
It's the inside, the arch of the foot would be right around
right here.
So right in here. Yep.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And if you palpate, which means touch, if you touch this area, you'll feel that little bone even on yourself. So what we were doing was looking at how the navicular bone moved when it was either unloaded, so the person was sitting down, or when it was loaded, when the person was standing up. And I became part of a study that looked at these folks, and I created orthoses for those people that had navicular drop that was outside of what would be considered an appropriate range. Now, what is normal? I have normal feet for me. You have normal feet for you. So there is an unclear definition of what true normal motion is. But there is an expected motion of the bones of the foot that has shown that if it's between a certain range, we can make some assumptions that the foot is working biomechanically in an appropriate way. So I began to make orthoses for the people of this protocol. We also had protocols ongoing for rheumatoid arthritis, and I made orthoses for the people of the protocols that had rheumatoid arthritis. And there it began. That was my entry into the world of orthotics and shoe inserts and the materials that go to make those up. I seek out those persons who perhaps may have exhausted all possibilities for care in their home state or country. And at the NIH, we bring those people to America or to the States, and we treat them. As long as they're on protocol, their medical care is taken care of. So somebody might have been on protocol for a dental experiment, yet they had bad feet. Somebody might have been there for a unique disease, and that disease process was largely unknown. And so we would study those diseases. Certain physicians would study those, and if they affected the foot and ankle and affected their function, I would then see them as well.
Cool.
I saw them together with the physical therapists and the physicians of the rehab medicine department at the NIH. So I was able to interact with all of them and be able to communicate with all of them for nearly every single patient that came through. It was a rare opportunity, and my 14 years or so of time there was spent gleaning information from these wonderful interactions from 8 to 12 different physicians and just as many physical therapists, occupational therapists, speech pathologists, and rehabilitation pathologists. All of these folks all came together for one of the finest bits of continuum of care that could possibly be had on the planet.
It's great.
It's what I strive for now that I'm no longer with the government. Mm-hmm. So I've been out for a couple of years. Yeah. And what I've noticed is that I don't need to simply focus on those persons that could utilize my services the most. What I need to do is I need to find people that are having foot and ankle pain, some issues, and that foot and ankle pain affects their function. Now, what I'll do in a little bit is talk a little bit about how to identify whether or not you need an orthotic, maybe even just what an orthotic is, and versus what an insole is. And I'll tell you a little bit about whether or not you might benefit from an orthoses or an orthotic intervention, or even just simply giving yourself some good feeling cushions inside your shoe.
That sounds great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I'll tell you what, I would like some good feeling cushions inside of my shoe. Because my dogs, I mean, sometimes these bad boys, they hurt a little bit. So I'm looking forward to that. We're also going to learn about some of these new, highly advanced, even space-age products that you manufacture for the benefit of the patient. So folks, we'll be right back. Come back and join us on Living Healthy with Chris Gracey and Gracey Feet. We'll be right back.
Oh, sweetheart. Can I give you a hand?
No thanks, Dad. I got it.
Okay. I'm gonna go fix the lamp in your room.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of children in foster care who will take you just as you are.
Welcome back to Living Healthy with Dr. Barton Bishop, Dr. Jay Greenstein, and our guest today, Chris Gracey of Gracey Feet. So the first segment was great. We learned a lot about you and the cool things that you guys were doing at NIH, stuff that I never even knew existed in NIH. So I'm proud to know that people like you are there and that other people are now there that are helping these people from around the world with really complicated conditions.
It's amazing. It really is.
So let's talk a little bit more. You mentioned the term a lot, orthoses or orthotics, right? What exactly is an orthotic? What is it used for? What's the deal there?
All right, then. An orthotic is actually it's a model that has been molded to a part of the body that provides support for that part of the body.
Okay.
So you can have an orthoses for the head and neck, an orthoses for the spinal column, or an orthoses for the foot. It lends support to a part of the body that has lost the ability to garner that support for function for itself.
Okay. So now you have a couple of what you call the soul commanders here.
I do.
And as I've heard you mention, you talk about how they command the soul, and they really, and this is, folks, this is S-O-L-E, not S-O-U-L, okay?
Right.
So the sole of the foot, which is the bottom of the foot. So talk to us exactly about how something like this would be used to help support the foot.
Sure. In general, orthotics will lend support to the heel and to the arch portion of the foot. Diagnoses that are fairly common are plantar fasciitis, which is pain in the arch and on the lower part of the bottom part of the foot, and posterior tibialis tendinitis. That's a long word, but what it really means is overuse and strain that has occurred to the posterior tibial tendon, and it may even occur, that pain may radiate up into the leg as well.
We see that often in runners.
Yeah, a lot of time in runners. Yep.
Absolutely. And so an arch such as this can help support the structure of the foot and allow it to reduce the amount of motion and collapse that may be causing some of that pain. My types of devices are what I call dynamic. They flex under pressure, such as this, so that they do not lock you up, if you will, or create too much support under an area that doesn't need it. I'm a big fan of natural motion in the foot and ankle, and I want people to be able to walk with as much natural motion as possible because that's what we were designed to do. But sometimes having the full range is painful and causes too much stress to the structures of the foot. So my Soul Commander orthoses, they literally do that. They command the center of progression and the sole of the foot to load in a particular fashion at a particular point in the gait cycle. And that just simply means as you walk, it allows the arch to collapse, but not all the way.
Okay, that's great. So how does someone out there know whether or not they should get a Soul Commander or go and get Dr. Scholl's at the local, pharmacy?
Oftentimes, I'm asked this. And the first question that I'll ask right back is, what have you tried? Because there are multiple levels and echelons of orthotics, whether they're over the counter, you can buy them at CVS or your local pharmacy. And they are relatively inexpensive. They'll range upwards of maybe $25, $35. They'll include a bit of arch, a little bit of a heel cup. They'll be mass-produced and not specific to your foot.
Sure.
The next level would be something like a Superfeet type of device that had a a separate plastic shell. And you would find those in, say, an REI or
Potomac River Running.
Potomac River Running.
And Pacers,
absolutely.
those stores.
Pacers, absolutely. And those types of orthoses will run you in the neighborhood of $35 to $55, sometimes even up to $100. They're still considered over-the-counter devices that don't require a physician's referral, but they have the features that an orthotic ought to have, but they're typically made with lesser grade, consumer grade type foams. So they'll either collapse very quickly or they'll be hard as rocks. The foot and ankle can get used to an enormous range of different terrain and environments, even inside the shoe. So some people find great relief out of those. The next step up is a custom orthoses. And a custom orthoses is defined as an orthotic that's been molded to the model of the foot. So you can only get these with a physician's referral and either a method of casting, where your foot has been casted, or scanned, so that the topography or the morphology of your foot is captured and a device is made from that shape.
So can you talk a little bit about the construction? I mean, what actually goes into this product?
A Sole Commander orthotic is the next step up. So a Sole Commander orthotic, first off, is made purely of carbon fiber. This is 1700 grade carbon fiber that is used in Formula One race cars.
Wow.
I lay this up myself and I mold it to a model of the patient's foot. And then I shape it with these unique cutouts all around the trim line of the area of the orthotic. At each one of these cutouts, I can impart flex to the device. And so for one particular patient, a little area here or here may be more cut out, and that would allow greater flex to happen along the medial arch side. Some other people might need a little bit more cut out through this lateral border to allow them to supinate a little bit more and influence how the foot and ankle would work.
And you get all of that from an exam, right? So someone comes and sees you, you watch how they walk, you watch how they stand, you evaluate their feet, and you determine what they need.
And that's where the physical therapy part of me comes into play.
Sure.
Because I want to have the most objective numbers that I could possibly get. From my time at the NIH, where I was looking at the navicular drop, I can measure that, and then I can tune this device to give me a navicular drop reading that's within the range that I'm shooting for. And so you couple that with a number of other tests and measures that I would take in a professional physical therapy exam, and now I have something that I can then go into my workshop and create that is ultra specific to that patient's particular needs.
Handmade, yes.
Handmade all the way,
That's right.
using medical grade foams. Here's an example, if I may.
So now this is your insole. This is an over-the-counter insole, right?
Yes.
So we've gone from custom fit orthotics like those, the Sole Commanders, to an over-the-counter insole like this, which you're going to show us. And again, these, even though you mentioned that you can get them scanned with a machine, the first thing that popped in my head is there are some shoe stores where you can stand on that machine and it spits out a pair of orthotics in 30 seconds or something. Not the same thing. Not the same thing.
It's nowhere near the same thing in the quality of construction. You know, I've always said that.
Or in the artwork.
This is pretty fancy.
Absolutely. I do. I paint every single one of them is a completely different design.
Wow.
But you know, those designs stem from my interaction with the patient. All the patient said, all I ask the patient is, what's your favorite color?
That's great.
But you know what? My design will bear out of the evaluation process because I will have spent an hour with that person in talking and hearing all of their history.
Awesome.
The Sole Commander, the Gracey Sole Commander orthotic actually rests on this bed of medical grade foams and military grade Kevlar.
Okay.
The secret behind the success of my orthotic lies in the quality of materials. Medical grade foams are the finest materials that you could possibly get in my industry, and I source them from all over the world. Kevlar is 5 times stronger than steel, yet look how flexible it is.
And this is what's in the bulletproof vests, right?
That's
Okay.
right.
But not just one layer.
No. This layer won't. It won't stop a bullet. But what it will do is it will attenuate shock, meaning that when you walk in this with this in your shoe, the forces that come through your shoe, actually the Kevlar will vibrate those forces out to the edges of the shoe. And that keeps that force in the shoe and ground interface. My football players love this because they're turf grabbers on the field. My lacrosse players love this because they're turf grabbers in dirt. Baseball players love it because you can get from a dead stop at home to first base a lot faster. The secret to this combination didn't come easy to me. But you know what? It came to me over years of practice with different materials and being able to test them. So these insoles are tested, my orthoses are tested, and we've had great success.
This brand, Unequal Technologies, has been in the news a fair amount recently. A lot of news stories around concussion and concussion management, concussion prevention, and this is the same company that's been doing a lot of research to help attenuate those forces to protect players from concussion. So it's great that you're using the highest grade products available.
Absolutely. You know, I couldn't even be doing this without the support and help of Unequal Technologies. I think Rob Vito of Unequal Technologies had a miraculous epiphany one day, and when he decided to start putting Kevlar into the players' helmets and pads to protect folks from injury. All I do is put it in a shoe, but I do have other designs that include my medical grade foams and put the Kevlar and be putting them with my new designs into helmets and pads. And together with Unequal Technologies, I think we can solve a lot of the problems that we see of sports injuries, especially in young persons at an early age, to try and keep the harmful vibrations down so that they can play.
Sure, that's great. How do they actually fit this in their shoe? Do they take out the other portion? So from a practical perspective, you've got about 30 seconds.
Okay.
Tell us what happens. They get these. Do they have to change shoe sizes? What happens?
Sure. Let me have your shoe.
Okay.
What you do is you take your
I'm getting
shoe
some
off.
insoles.
You take your shoe off. Let me have this one.
All right.
And all you do is you lean in and you take out the existing insole that's inside the shoe.
Okay.
Because these are going to be consumer grade foams. You replace them with the medical grade foams and Unequal Technologies Kevlar, and
I'm looking forward to
you
this.
slide them right
is gonna
back
be
into
comfy.
the shoe.
I have these, and they're truly phenomenal because they're
Oh,
really soft.
Yeah, they're so nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels great.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. I just got a new pair of insoles. Yeah?
You absolutely
I like
did.
it.
I
Thanks, Chris.
appreciate the time.
I'm glad
That's
we came
awesome.
today. Well, folks, thanks so much for joining us. This was a great show. Thank you very much to
Thanks.
Chris Gracey of Gracey Feed, and of course my great co-host.
Now,
Dr.
how do
Bishop.
they get a hold
Oh
of
yeah.
you?
Oh, sure.
Really quick.
You can get a hold of me at graceyfeet.com
Okay.
or ssrehab.com.
Okay.
You can find me at seeing patients clinically at any of the sport and spine clinics.
Thanks a lot, Chris. And folks, thanks very much for joining us. We'll see you next time on Living Healthy.